Alright, hello everyone, welcome to my review of three-body problem. For those of you who are new, if you're not familiar with my format, I generally do credit these things as the way I like it and the way I think it should be rated. And these two things are generally separate because I could like something and it could honestly not be that good. And I'm usually am honest with these kinds of stuff. So if I really like something and I want to rate it a little higher, I'll let you guys know that I'm rating it a little higher just because I like it, and vice versa. So for this particular Netflix series, I got recommended this by a friend of mine who said that, hey, you should check this out since you're a huge sci-fi fan. This might be a thing for you. So here's the thing, right? I watched this, I just finished this, and this is a three brain cell problem, which I think is a huge problem with the writing. And to be honest, I did not know who the writers were before I decided to watch this because I got recommended this. So I thought, okay, let's just go in blind and just have fun. And there was a reasonably recognizable cast. I was quite surprised by it. But towards the end, when I found out who the writers were, I got completely thrown off because I realized that these are the people who screwed up a Game of Thrones. And they're sort of here again to screw up another story. But you see, the thing is, even without knowing who the writers were and just going in blind with this, I just couldn't learn to appreciate this kind of a story because of how it felt so weird watching a story about very intelligent people, like extremely intelligent, top of their game sort of inventors and scientists and medical researchers. Um, and the way they behave and the way they react to this problem is just so off their, their game. It's just so weird. It's like it's not something that you would do even as being a half smart person. Like even just being intelligent enough in your own field, you know that you wouldn't do certain things that just didn't make sense to you. But these people went ahead and did such weird things that it really makes you feel like you're watching intelligent people being written by people who are not so intelligent. And I think that's the easy way to sort of wrap this film up, or rather this series. Now, at its core, it has an interesting story, a story about a member of what would have been the CCP, or a growing party in China, which is communism, and it was led by President Mao. And if you guys don't know about Mao Zedong, it's a very strong, powerful, radical communist leader, and we believe his views have survived the test of time and is still being practiced in China, especially by the recent their latest president and whatnot. And regardless of their political views, um, the core story is that they were actually sort of beating up a scientist in China because they believe that science should not lead their fundamental beliefs, and because they have a strong political idea behind it, they were going radical against science, saying that, oh no, you shouldn't prove things that are against what the party's beliefs are. Without going into too much detail, they sort of just put it that way. And that's fair enough. They didn't want to dumb it down too much to let people sort of figure it out because we know a little bit about history and politics, so that's understandable. But it leads into his family, his daughter, which is this lady you see in this trailer image here. She sort of decides to take, to try to survive this whole world of whatever politics that she's in. And she ends up getting an opportunity where, when she's sent to prison by the Communist Party, she actually has someone reach out to her and tell her that, hey, your science efforts are actually needed for us, but for a war. But later on, she finds out that what they're working on is, so this is the lady on the right-hand side who the story starts off with. And it turns out that it's not really a war effort as much. It's more so some kind of a communications effort where they want to be the pioneers of opening communications, interstellar communications, meaning beyond Earth and out into space. So they create a huge satellite dish, and so I'm going into spoiler territory at this point, basically, but they create a huge satellite dish, and they fire off a very powerful signal into outer space and hoping that something will reach them back. And here's the thing, right? You're betting on not only an advanced civilization receiving this signal, you're also believing that they'll be able to decode the logic behind your language. with whatever limited number of words or vocabulary that you've sent. And based on that, they need to find a way to understand what that language is even. It's you're betting on a lot of ifs, but let's just say this civilization is advanced enough to a point that they're able to understand your language just by trying to study the logic behind it, because there is I know there are some researches actually done on the idea of language itself, and how there are certain ways of decoding a language's idea and concept, and that way you can sort of almost understand any language and where they come from. But you must understand that that's a very Earth specific thing, because we generally have some means of communication that's common among us. But apparently, this alien race saying they can somehow figure it out, even though their communication methods could be completely different from us. So they didn't really know how to explain that, but I think it's understandable that they probably found it too complicated to go into that territory. So they just made it such that, okay, the aliens will figure it out. They figured out the language is just advanced enough so they can do it. So how this woman actually helps the science is that she finds a way to use the sun to amplify the signal that they want to send out into outer space. And that is a strange but also interesting concept. And let me tell you why. So I know a little bit of um, aero. I studied a little bit of mechatronics engineering, so I know a little bit about engineering and signal amplification and whatnot. And here's the thing, right? Solar energy and radiation that comes from objects like the sun, which have a lot of photons, generally throw off a lot of feedback, and that's actually bad for cellular communication. And so here's the thing, these people are using cellular communication by firing out radio waves through a satellite, right? So it's actually going to get disrupted by the sun rather than use the sun as an amplifier. Though I believe that there is some science to support that, hey, if you have a sufficient amount of, what do you call this, gravitational force by an object, it is possible that the signal's waves can actually get pulled by this gravitational force, and thus, speeding it up and amplifying it and whatnot. But the thing is, it would be absorbed by the sun's gravitational field and not really go any further, because you're not firing a beam powerful enough from just satellite on a planet like Earth. It just doesn't make sense to me, at least from a physics perspective. But if there's someone out there with a PhD who could prove me wrong and give me the papers, I'm really curious, because if there is a way to amplify signals by just firing it at the sun, that'll be quite an interesting thought process, because then you can just create, a small, nuclear form of energy powerful enough in a little loop, and if you fire signals through it, you basically amplify signals powerful enough to reach a vast majority of the planet, and you can save on wired networking altogether, right? Basically, you can do that. You sort of bounce it off, not really bounce it off. You're gonna fire it through a satellite that has a powerful enough energy source, of photons and electrons and whatnot. And it has to find a way to be able to pull in that energy that you're sending and amplify it forward. Anyway, this is a bit too much of the sci-fi stuff. I know I'm geeking out a little bit here, but just bear with me. So after she figures that out, they fire the signal into space. The aliens actually do respond to her, and she actually gets a response. And these things are peppered through the way the story is being told. So initially, it feels like a bit like a what do you call this? Some kind of a, not really a Black Mirror, but one of those stories where they try to show you a flash forward and flashback to make you wonder where these two people are from. But you can kind of tell they're from different eras, at least from straight away looking at their tires, only to eventually realize that yes, this lady actually grows into this older lady who turns out to be the grandmother of our protagonist, who is this woman. So this woman and all the women in this story who are protagonists are absolute geniuses, in this story. And so we follow these geniuses, this group of geniuses basically. So the woman on the far left is one of the protagonists. The second protagonist is on her right. So these two women are basically the lead women of this story. And these are the four male supporting actors of this story. This guy is the this lady's girlfriend, the Chinese lady's girlfriend. Chinese, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's Chinese lady's girlfriend. This dude is a theoretical sort of scientist, I guess. This guy is in the Navy. He's a soldier. the guy to hit this guy's right is also some sort of a very elitist inventor of some sort because he's a very rich guy, but he's having cancer. So his story is all about his journey through cancer and how towards the very end they try to give him purpose by doing something really stupid, and I'll get to that in a bit. And on the far right, someone recognizable from the Game of Thrones. This dude is also some sort of an elitist inventor of sorts because he is also very rich. He lives in a very big house, but you don't really see them dealing with anything very interesting or any technology that they themselves produced. It's more so of them dealing with technology that they discover or is handed to them or is integral to the story. So they more than often the guys as supporting actors, they don't really do that much, and the story is very much carried by the women who are two geniuses who try to solve all of this together. And I think that's fine in its core. The story is just pulling a bunch of people together trying to do stuff, but even the intelligent people in the story make a lot of silly mistakes, and that's really the weirdest part about it. And this is a very good scene to start to showcase the beginning of the mistakes, basically. So they find this weird looking helmet device, which basically looks like an upside down underwear of sorts, right? Looks like a metal underwear, the one that you would find in a whorehouse. And I wouldn't know, but just trying to try to throw a guess here. But they just put it on their head without even questioning the concept or the work that's been put into this shortly after their colleague and friend who was using this died. So you use an equipment that someone was recently using. They had no other reason to commit suicide. They were absolutely fine. There's no backstory to it. There's no possible evidence to why they would commit suicide. The case is probably still open, and you discover the one thing that their family believes that they were using before they committed suicide, and you decide, hey, that sounds like a great thing to put on my head and put it on and test it out. And you go into this world, which feels ultra realistic, and it's sort of it's like a video game that's actually giving them problems to solve, and they have apparently different stages that they got to go through. Now, the fact that this thing can basically link itself to your head like a neural interface and read your thoughts and give you feelings and feedback, and you knowing, like they themselves, the characters themselves address it and say that this thing is well beyond our technology, it's far too advanced and all of that. But they don't ever begin to question why they should be stupid enough to put this thing on their head and not even knowing whether this thing can read your brain and read your mind, which it totally can because it's creating this interface. So it makes no sense why they would think that this thing can't read their mind, which is important to the later part of the story because later on they come up with an even stupider idea which contradicts this entire beginning of the story, right? And let me get to that. So the next part is just some side character story where they bring in the guys just to give them, I don't know, a bit of backstory. It's all really fluff. I'm just going to go through the main plot line, which is the core part of the story. The side stories don't really add up to the actual important parts. Like they don't really affect the core story in any way. So they're just nice fluff, and I don't think it's too draggy compared to a lot of other TV series. So I give them a little bit of credit to that. But there's a lot of pointless things going on. Like it's not draggy because it doesn't give you things that's completely out of the main plot. But there's a lot of things they throw that they try to make you believe is part of the main plot by trying to mislead you and misdirect you, but it doesn't really work because you already know that these people are just stupid, trying to pretend to be geniuses who are doing stupid things, right? Because this lady, this person you're looking at here, one of the two geniuses in the story, she, one of the many geniuses in the story, actually, she actually invented this kind of nanofiber technology, which creates extremely thin pieces strings that allows her to cut through any kind of object almost. And it is so thin that it requires minimal effort from any object to just be pushed through it and it'll be absolutely sliced into pieces. So it's quite advanced technology, and it's pretty amazing that that we can imagine the kind of technology even being created. So on top of that, she still puts this strange thing on her head without even knowing where it's from, what it does. There's no branding logo. She takes it to a friend, and a friend can't even figure it out what it actually belongs to. So this woman actually tells this woman here not to put it on, right? So let me actually get the names for you. Give me a sec. Right, okay, there we go. So Augie actually tells Jin. not to put the helmet on her head because she tells her that didn't the other woman just recently die wearing this helmet? Why are you doing this? But there's no real explanation given. This woman, however, is drawn to the video game and the idea that there is actually something for her to solve in the game, that's being given by the helmet, so she continues to play it. And all of this has something very interesting that comes early in the story, which is this timer, which shows up. And this is like at the very beginning almost actually. It shows up and it appears first for this woman, and it follows a series of deaths that this cop is investigating. So Benedict Wong is one of the investigators together with Liam Cunningham, and they're investigating a series of murders, which is driven by people just all these scientists suddenly and inventors and whatnot suddenly committing suicide. And this woman, who is because she's one of the inventors, very famous inventor and whatnot, she gets this timer as well that appears in her head that gives her a little timer. And this timer expires when she actually quits her job and tells the company to shut down her nanofiber project. So what's actually happening is the aliens are actually putting timers into people's minds, which they can read using the technology that they already have, right? And they can also detect when technology is being shut down around them. And how the aliens achieve this is they apparently sent an atom-sized, super powerful AI that is able to travel at superliminal speeds, which means that far many times beyond the speed of light. So this alien race is on its way to invade Earth, but they can only travel at 1% the speed of light in considering body preservation. So it's going to take them 400 years because they are 4 light years away, so 1% speed of light, so 400 years to actually reach um, planet Earth. So before they reach planet Earth, they send a scout AI, a very, very advanced AI, which is a two-component AI. So there's two pieces of it that apparently work together and they work around the world and they're really fast. They are moving at superliminal speeds because they're able to travel 400 light years I don't know, really, really fast to come to Earth within, I don't know, I think it happened within a span of like a decade or two. And it's able to put into the brains of multiple genius scientists. So it's able to know who these scientists are, what their inventions are, go into their heads and put this timer inside their heads. It's able to leave behind advanced technology, that it can force people to create or invent or encode by itself. And this technology allows them to sort of be able to neurally interface into a world where they got to solve problems because the alien is basically recruiting people to see who would be on their side to help them sort of be more accepted, I guess, when they come to Earth. So all this is thrown off when we actually meet this guy who is talking to a sort of a little radio, an old style radio, which is apparently allowing him to communicate with the alien race. So this communication is actually taking place from light years away, which is insane, right? Because he's not talking to the AI, he's talking to the actual alien race, so it's actually communicating directly with one of the alien species members. And the length of communication is not really taking many years as what we would think, like right. So initially in the story, when the CCP lady actually sends the signal to the aliens, it takes about 8 years every time for the signal to come back. But now the technology has been advanced forward because the AI has been getting people to try to create their own little modules, which it's able to inhibit and it's able to advance by itself using its own technical abilities because it's literally able to go into people's brains and create timers, right? It's far too advanced. It's an extremely powerful atomic AI. It's also able to control AI technology such as cars and vehicles. It's able to turn off technology, affect electricity, and all these sorts of things. So it's really, really powerful, but it wants the alien race to sort of die by itself, like kill itself, and not try to defy its own technological, like try not to be too technologically advanced because the alien race believes that humans are actually able to supersede them by the time they arrive, and so they fear that, and so they want to keep the humans sort of backwards in terms of the technology. So they communicate with some people to recruit them to try to create some sort of a cult just to understand humans better, because they still are curious aliens because of how technologically advanced they are. You can sort of assume that they have to be very curious because they're also scientists in their own right to be able to advance this much in terms of technology and also survive their three-body problem. So what is the three-body problem? The three-body problem which this woman later solves in the video game. So this is in the video game, and you can see behind it there's three circular objects, and these three are apparently are suns. And these three suns are affecting the alien's planet, which causes the planet to have a very turbulent system of being caught in the gravitational field of three bodies, which is three suns. And this is the three body problem. This is what the story is all about. So the story is about a problem that the alien species is having, and therefore they gotta come and they want to take over Earth to make it their new home. They start to kill off Earth scientists to cripple them. And they also want to study humans, so they try to talk to them. But from talking to this guy, they find out that human beings apparently lie and they don't. So that's a thing. Apparently they don't lie or they can't lie or whatever, and human beings lie, and therefore human beings cannot be trusted. So they I don't know, like do they understand the concept of deception because they cannot lie? Maybe there's other species of animals or whatever in their planet that can actually deceive. So maybe they sort of understand what deception is, because otherwise it will be too much of an alien thing to me, right? If I never knew what lying was, suddenly you tell me what lying was, that would be kind of a really alien concept to me, for lack of a better term. But anyway, so the aliens sort of stop protecting this cult because this guy tells aliens that humans can actually lie, and that actually sort of makes the aliens just decide, okay, you know what? Um, then in that case, we can't live together with the humans. We might as well just come and just destroy all of you. Which they can already start doing because they already have the advanced AI, but they let the humans play the little game by just, I don't know, for some reason, having their political discussions and preparing themselves. And so here's the thing. Here's where we get to the stupid parts, right? Okay. So, oh my God, I can't even believe I have to put this sentence together. It's really difficult for me to even think about it because of just how dumb it is. So these aliens who can literally put timers in people's heads and force them to commit suicide send a recruited assassin to kill some people. Why do they need to send an assassin and wipe her footage from the CCTV cameras? No idea. Why do the aliens provide the human race a helmet which allows them to sort of recruit people and see whether they are willing to solve the aliens problem, like understand the aliens problem and accept the aliens to come over to their planet? No idea, especially if the humans do find out, which they do, that the aliens are actually killing their top geniuses. It's kind of counterintuitive for the aliens to want the humans to trust them in the first place. Because here's the thing, right? If I just wanted you to trust me, and I know that some of you people trust me, I would rather let your technology advance, because for all I know, you could become a spacefaring nation in the future that allows us both to populate newer planets, and with our combined technologies, we can achieve more than that. But you instead silently kill off geniuses, but at the same time want geniuses to understand your problem. So you want intelligent people to be able to understand your problem, but you also don't want people to be intelligent enough to actually create inventions that could actually potentially solve your problem. Because for all you know, human beings, if these aliens really think that human beings can become advanced enough, for all you know, the human beings might even be able to solve the three body problem. And that's kind of, I think, where the story is going to lead to. But before that, there's a lot of stupid stuff that take place in between. So here's the thing: the human race decides that there's one thing that the aliens cannot do, which is read their minds. Let me just pause in this frame here for a bit and let you guys just think about that. So there is a United Nations conference, and the human beings decide that, okay, now we all know that the aliens are coming because it gets exposed at some point, but it doesn't really matter how. So we all know the aliens are coming. We all know the aliens go into the brains of people to put timers in their head because they are creating advanced technology. The AI is able to detect the technology through Wi-Fi networking and all these kinds of stuff and whatnot. And still, even without Wi-Fi networking technology and all this, they're able to go into people's brains and put timers in their heads, create technology that can actually neurally interface with them. It's an advancement technology that is, you know, created by humans, but it's provided by the aliens on how to do this. But the humans still believe that the aliens won't find a way to read their minds, and so the UN's idea is to choose three people who they believe are very good at theorizing solutions in their mind. So they pick this guy on the left here because he's actually apparently a genius who's able to theoretically solve a lot of problems, and two other people, random people that they've chosen, which we don't really have a backstory for. So they pick these three people, and the human race basically banks on them. The United Nations banks on them to be the three people to, in their minds and only in their minds, come up with a genius idea on how to defeat this alien race. And they say it aloud in the UN conference. And the fact that these people continue to be alive from time to time means that humans have to try to protect them, but the alien race is also allowing them to try and see what they can do. Okay, here's the thing, right? So this guy on the left here, Alex Sharp, he basically, like the aliens actually try to kill him one or two times. And then the humans transport him on an airplane to the UN conference, which is aired to the world. And they elect him as one of the three people who is going to be theorizing a solution to kill the aliens. Oh my God, my brain hurts. And this idiot, he doesn't want to accept it. And people start to talk to him like he's John Wick or something. They're like, yes, sir, we understand. We don't accept it. We understand, absolutely. And he's like, so what are you all here for? To provide you resources because we understand you don't accept it. Because they think that this guy's bluffing because it's all going to be in his head. And there's this, like, like fourth wall kind of whatever bullshit. Okay, but here's the thing, right? Later on, towards the end of the story, the aliens still control the plane, which this guy's sort of like escort is flying, and the aliens actually talk to that guy and tell him that you actually belong to us now, you're also under our control, and they invade his head and they sort of make him see things that scare him off and whatnot. So the aliens actually know about the whole idea. They can put a timer in this guy's head and tell him, if we can kill you right now, we don't care about whatever thoughts you have. Since the UN has elected you, we can just kill you off, and they can just do that. They can, the AI can just come up with more technology like this that can read people's brains by just radio waves and not even needing the helmets to be on their heads. This is a losing battle from the start because the script basically screwed itself up by not having enough thought put into it on how to not put any thought into it. Because the whole point of this story is thought, right? The aliens literally are in your brain. There's no way you can actually get out of this concept already since you've dug this grave. And now you're telling them that the aliens can't read their minds, which they can, because the aliens put a timer in their head, which means, okay, here's my explanation. You're telling me that, oh, they just put a timer, but they can't read their thoughts. They just know if they're doing things out in the real world. Listen here, you idiot. In order for me to put a timer into someone's brain, I need to know what the time is that's being read by their brain. I can't just fire a signal and expect it to be working perfectly. I need to know if it is working. And this is computer science. Okay, I'm telling you this because I'm a computer scientist. And here's the thing about computer science is there's this thing called a handshake or feedback, which you need to do in order to make sure that the data you're sending is actually being received responsively. So you need to be able to read, right, the transmitted data in the system and how it is being viewed by the system. So this is the way the numbers are being viewed by the human brain, which the AI understands when it's sending the signal. So that means the AI is able to go into the brain to reaffirm or confirm that this number is being read by the human being. The number goes down to a certain specific countdown, and it forces their human brain, which this AI can control, to commit suicide, which means the AI can read their brain. And for the UN to say that, okay, now we're going to pick three people to come up with ideas because the aliens can't read our brain, means that the entire story is just retarded from the get-go. And trying to recruit people to solve a three-body problem, but at the same time killing off their geniuses who might as well just find a solution for it that you can't, because again, the aliens' fear is that the humans will become too advanced for them to handle in 400 years, which is why they start crippling their geniuses. And yet they want to test the humans on whether they can solve a three-body problem. Heck, test this again in 400 years when the humans are far more advanced than you, when you haven't killed off the geniuses, and they might just solve it for you. For all you know, you could just live wherever you already are, or maybe even find a new habitable home, because as I said, the human beings might become a spacefaring nation that's far more advanced by them. So, This is what poor writing does to a TV series, and this is why I absolutely hated Three Body Problem, because as I said, this is a three brain cell problem that really does not put enough thought and actual geniuses behind the work of writing a story about geniuses. How would I rate Three Body Problem? A 2 or a 3. You know what? I think that's a great rating. A 3 rating problem. That sounds absolutely brilliant for me. It's no longer in my watch list, so they can stay with a rating of 3. This is an absolutely stupid TV series that I think is overshadowed by just far more brilliant stories out there. And I highly recommend you go and watch things like Black Mirror or you could even just watch one of those Nolan stories, right? Like all the way back from Inception and Prestige. These are all brilliant stories with thought put into it, ideas that actually have been properly fleshed out. There's a concept behind it. Heck, even Ocean's 11 had a good idea when its ending. The original idea of a parody horror story, which is Scream itself, had a brilliant idea in its ending. Saw had a good twist. All of these things actually has thought put into it. But when you decide to create an enemy that is already advanced enough that it can put a timer into your brain and force you to commit suicide, and then make people believe that it cannot read the same brain that it's putting a timer into, and making people also see scary thoughts. Like, okay, so towards the end of the story, there's a scene in the plane, as I said, with Liam Cunningham. So he's the guy who is sort of running the show here, and he wants to actually put himself into cryo and wake up in 400 years when the aliens arrive to try to handle the problem. So he's actually going to go in and out of cryo every year just to check to make sure the plan is working and sort of try to survive time itself to be there when the aliens arrive to try to face the problem as a leader at that time. So he actually gets his own brain invaded by the alien that actually shows him a scary image to scare him off and tell him, you now work for us and you now belong to us. Which means they can read his brain anytime as well, because they can put scary thoughts into him so they know what he's afraid of and they know what his fear process is like and they show him something scary. They see him get afraid and then it leaves the brain. You idiots, it reads your mind, which is why it can do this in the first place, right? The only cool scene in this entire story that is, I think, unique to this and makes Three Body Problem actually good, um, is that one scene where the nanofiber technology produced by the Dr. Augie Salazar, Slytherin, actually slices an entire boat. So they want to use the technology, again, in a very stupid way, to try to collect a potential source of technology that is storing this AI, and or rather a copy of the AI, which is called Sophon or something. So it keeps like a copy, like a backup copy of the AI, and this backup copy of the AI is being run by a server from a boat for whatever reason. But it's contradictory to what the alien said, which is this AI is actually just an atomic AI that's able to spread itself and cover the Earth even if it wants to, because its original size, it's big enough to mask the entire planet and basically turn into a green screen where it can project anything it wants into the sky, which you do see at some point in the story. It turns the entire sky and makes the sky, stars, and whatever blink, literally sending a Morse code, which for some reason only one guy can understand in this story. This guy Saul is the only guy who actually understands that. Oh, it's actually a Morse code and it's actually sending a signal. And everyone else is like, why is the sky flashing? What is it doing? Like, dude, have you not read anything? Like, Morse code is a thing. Like, even if you don't know it letter to letter, you can still take a video of it with your phone and go back home and sit down with a piece of paper and pencil and just decode it like old school. You don't have to put like the amount of stupidity this show has is just so dumb that it pains me to even say that I unfortunately had to watch this. And I told my friend, like, dude, I love you, but this is just screwed up. Like, this is just an absolute trash story. Um, yeah, so anyway, the doctor creates a technology of nanofibers, which the Thomas Wade actually uses to slice a boat because they want to try to kill everyone on the boat and not allow them to have time to try to delete the hard drive or make a copy of it or escape quickly enough. So they use the nanofibers to slice the entire boat, totally banking on the possibility that the hard disk is not damaged. You're destroying an entire boat. All that has to happen is for a little piece of a laptop or even a person to just bleed onto that hard disk and it's already gone, it's already destroyed. The entire ship gets sliced and literally falls in on itself. It collapses in on itself. And we are expected to believe that the hard disk is going to survive the entire thing, which absolutely, again, is so stupid that it makes such a cool looking scene look absolutely dumb. So anyway, that's it for me for this review rant, whatever, you know, crap you want to call it, because three body problem was a serious problem, and I think this is where Netflix has to really start thinking into themselves whether they want to keep creating stupid stories of geniuses for stupid people, because I'm just not into these kinds of bullshit. I do have some good stuff that I have been watching recently that I can probably recommend to you guys, and I think one of the main ones is Shogun. The only reason I haven't fully got into a detailed review of Shogun is because it's still, I think, halfway or something. I'm not really sure how far it's gone, but it's a brilliant TV series, and I highly recommend you guys watch it. Shogun is not on Netflix, which is one of the reasons why it's probably good right now. Netflix doesn't seem to, like, for the sake of inclusion, diversity, and variety, they seem to have sacrificed actual good writing. And I think that's a huge problem that needs to be solved by all of pop culture as a whole, because you have crap like Damsel that shows up, which I actually have not watched. My wife watched this, and just from her description, I can sort of understand that we both agree that this was an absolutely retarded film in its own right. Calling a film Damsel, which is fine, not in distress, again, also fine, but the fact that the girl basically is a Mary Sue with no character arc, well, where else have we seen this? The rest of modern Hollywood and Disney and modern writing and feminism, which doesn't understand the concept of growth, which my wife, a woman, understands, right? You gotta actually work hard to get good at what you're doing. If you're talented, that's great, but talent without any effort and any actual skill is pointless. And that's the truth about life, and that's the thing that people gotta learn. And the reason why even a Netflix series like One Piece actually did better is because One Piece is from an existing story written by a brilliant Japanese author that tells you the growth of Luffy, who doesn't is not a Mary Sue. He doesn't, or a, what do you call a guy Mary Sue? Mary whatever. Okay, never mind. Just let's just drop that thought. But Luffy actually has to work hard to achieve his dreams, and he actually has a brilliant character growth that spans across multiple, like thousands of episodes, right? Like it's 1,000 episodes basically, multiple seasons of Netflix productions, and there's so much potential there. Even like Avatar, because Aang and Luffy and all these characters were written with heart and soul, where they actually were defeated at some point, and they actually had to grow and they actually had to get better, and you actually see that growth, and that is the part that actually is rewarding to you as the viewer, because you start to believe in yourself and start to believe in the hero story again, the hero's journey, the hero's story, the hero's victory. You start to see all of that coming together when you actually see the hero put in effort, fail, and try again, because this is the fact of life, right? But when you have a Mary Sue, a character that absolutely doesn't have to put that same kind of level of effort and just gets everything done just because of plot armor, it it just takes you out of the immersion and breaks the fourth wall and makes you realize that this is just written by people who just are seeking some kind of DEI validation, that there's actually no point in the story in itself. And Three Body Problem is also one of those stories, I feel, because it showcases a lot of geniuses, as I said, in a very stupid story of stupidity. That's it for my for this one. I'll see you guys in the next. Take care.